Hello everyone and welcome to my coloring corner. Today is Tips and Tricks Tuesday and we have had a request for me to show people how to color snow. Now snow is not a difficult thing to color. You just have to remember where it's at. So the picture I've chosen is from Ruth Sanderson, Grayscale Santa's Christmas adult coloring book. This is the new edition. She does have the original Christmas coloring book as well. And what better than to color snow than a snowman? So in this picture, there's several different things of snow. There's snow falling, of course, which is going to come down as a white because it's got no backing. So this area here is all got grass backing, more than likely. Where the deep ruts are, because this could be a dirt hill, the deep ruts will have more of a gray brown color. The lighter areas, for example, these areas here of the children stomping the snow around the snowman, will have a little bit of a blue tone to it. So depending upon what type of thing the snow is landed on, it's going to pick up some of the color. The snow on the trees here and down here are going to have a little bit of a light blue, almost a little bit of a green tone to it, because it's going to reflect the green from the evergreens. Up here it's going to have a bit of a gray because it's going to reflect the tones of the branches. Now, because the branches don't have a lot of leaves and are very small, the more snow that lands on them. So if you have a tree like this that's really heavy with snow and the branches are completely covered, you're going to end up with more white than anything else because you're not going to see the reflection of the tree itself. Snow is a crystallization of ice. Well, crystallization of water causing ice, I guess is the better way of putting it. So basically, it's just little tiny ice crystals, and crystals are see-through. Crystals are they don't have any color. So when it lands, it picks up the color that it is landing on. As it piles up, the crystals move and shift and everything else, and it just gradually piles up on top of each other, causing that white snow. So for example, if you look outside when the snow first starts coming down, before it has accumulated enough on your lawn, you're going to see the white, but you're going to see a lot of green in that white. Like if you look closely at a patch of snow that's on the ground, just as it starts to fall, you're not going to see a lot of white. However, if you come back an hour later after a heavy snowstorm, you're going to see a lot of white with some grays and some blues and different tones in it, because it's picking up and reflecting the different colors around it. So we're going to color our snowman here. Now, a snowman is a compression of ice crystals rolled into a ball by people. This is not a natural formation in any sense of the word. However, when you compress ice, it will get a little bit of either a dirty look, such as a gray or a little bit of brown, depending upon where it's been rolled. But if it's been rolled with very clean snow that doesn't have a lot of grass right underneath it, or has a good base where you can roll the snow and not get any sort of debris in it. You can put a bit of a gray tone with a little tiny bit of a blue undertone. These areas here that are reflecting the light, catching the light from the day, so as you can see, the light is coming from this direction because his shadow is this direction. So your light source is on this side. This side here, you can put a little bit of blue to reflect that light. So let's start on the snowman here. So we're going to take our lightest blue. Of course, our pencils are the Faber-Castell polychromos, and we're going to start with sky blue because it is a very light blue. I'm going to sharpen it up here, and in the areas that are shadowy, so up under here, we're going to put little bits of blue. And we're not going to put a whole lot. I'm going to switch you over to the other camera so you can see a little bit better of what I'm doing. Now we all know the other camera hates me, but hopefully it'll be nice and actually show what I'm doing. So under here, we're going to put a little bit of blue in that shadowy area. Little areas that light is going to catch that blue color. Now, I know a lot of people really don't like the Faber-Castell white pencil. However, when you're doing things such as a grayscale or something that you don't want a heavy layer of really stark white color, it is a great pencil for blending. It's not a really stark white. It's very translucent, which works quite well when you're working on something that you want to have that gray tone to it. So technically, because this is a grayscale, technically I could just go over this entire thing with white and be done with it. I don't really have to put any color in here. However, in order to make it a coloring, you kind of have to put a little bit of white in there, or a little bit of color in there. So you just got to fill in the areas that the artist has already given you in the grayscale with a little bit of different colors. Like I said, I'm doing the areas that are in the lighted light source areas. So the stuff that's getting directly shone upon, I'm doing in a really light blue, and I'm using a extremely light hand. I'm not putting down a heavy layer of this, just enough to change the color of the gray, because this is a grayscale. So I'm putting in enough of the blue to change that gray into a blue. And as you can see, I'm not going out past the light source. I'm staying right inside the light source areas. So areas that I know that light is hitting, I'm going to be doing in this blue. And once I'm done, you'll be able to see the difference between the gray, using a gray and using a blue. Just to make sure that I get around his little stones in his mouth there. And like that. Then we're going to come down here to his lower body. Now there's a bunch of snow falling there that is really stark white, which you can go over with your gel pen or anything else after you've finished doing your snowman, and make those an absolute stark white. You can do that with your gel pen, you can do that with a Posca pen, you can do that with a bit of liquid pearl. That might be nice. You can do that with anything really that is very, very, very white. So I'm just going in underneath here and bringing that up into the area that is being touched by the sunlight or by the daylight, because it looks kind of cloudy, so it's just daylight. And it's snowing, so there's no sunlight there. So if it was an extremely sunny day and you could see that it was a very sunny day, you could add little touches of yellows and different crystallization colors. Basically, the light hits the crystal and the crystal reflects the light back, depending upon what shift the crystal is in, on what color it's going to reflect back. So if you've ever held a crystal up to the light, you'll know what I mean. So I'm just getting the lightest areas. So also with it being a grayscale, you can tell that there's some areas that are really light gray and some areas that are really dark gray, like this area here is a very dark gray, where this area here has bits of light gray in it. So what I'm doing is I'm basically just taking the blue into those really light gray areas. And filling that in. Now I did last year and in Christmas in July, did do a couple of different line art, how to do snow pictures. So if you want to see that, you can definitely take a look at that as well. So with this being a grayscale, a lot of that detail's already in there for you. You just got to follow what the artist has intended for it. Alright, I think that's it for the light blue. So as you can see, the front areas here are done with that light blue. Just going to make sure that I get enough of that on there. And like I said, I'm doing this very, very light-handed. I'm not going really heavy-handed with it. The really stark white areas I am going around so that you can still see that snow falling. Alright. Now I'm going to take my cold gray. Which one's this? Cold gray number 3, I think is a little too dark. So I'm going to take cold gray number 2 and give it a try in the lighter areas here and see how that works. I might need to go into cold gray number 3. So in the really light areas, I'm using cold gray number 2. And you don't notice a lot of difference because it's pretty much the same color as the grayscale. And grab cold gray number 3 as well, just to do those darker areas. Just like that. You could also use a blue-gray for this and just do the whole thing and vary your how hard you're pressing on the pencil. So varying your pressure will allow you to have that. If you use a blue-gray, varying your pressure will give you that ability to have both the gray and the blue. Now I'm just going to feather it out and blend it in a little bit with the cool gray number 2. And then I'm going to come down here and into that blue for where the scarf is. I'm going to sharpen this. It's a little bit unsharpened. It's a little too dull for what I need it to be. So as you can see, because it is a sphere, you're getting a dark line down this one side, but down the back side, depending upon where it is, there's still a bit of a light area. So that light area, we're using that cool gray number 2 to fill in that lighter area. In this darker area, we're using the cool gray number 3 to fill in that darker area. And it will all be blended together with a white. So I'm not getting all of the areas. I'm just getting the darkest areas. Now with a grayscale, there's 2 different ways that you can do this. You can either go light first, especially if you're only doing light in an area. What I would suggest, especially since it is a grayscale, is that you do your dark first so that you don't lose that gray undertone, so that you don't, especially if it's a light grayscale, because with light grayscales, like this one is a lighter grayscale, there's also a darker version of this in the back of the book. But with light grayscale, you lose a lot of detail with that because they've lightened it via the printer and the publication so that it's not as dark. Like for example, his hat here on the other one is much blacker because they have darkened it up. They haven't lightened it up as much as they have on this one. But anyway, back to what I was trying to say. I'm just rambling at this point. But if you do the lighter first, you can end up going over top of your grayscale and eliminating it. And then you don't know where your grayscale is. So try to make sure that you follow your darkest areas of grayscale first. And then go back in afterwards and sharpen that detail. Like right here, I sharpened that detail where it's coming into the the scarf. Back here, I'm going to sharpen this detail here. So just make sure that you go back in and you sharpen your detail, just so that you don't lose that detail. And then you can just blend it in a little bit with the lighter gray. Now once again, we are going to blend this whole thing with the white, so I'm not too concerned about leaving any white spot, because we want white spot. It's a snowman. So I'm just fanning out that blue a little bit with the cool gray number 2, which is a very, very light gray. But as you can see, it doesn't take over that blue, so you can definitely go over your blue with the gray in those areas. This area here I'm leaving white because I want the white to be fairly stark in that area. Same with over here. We're going to put our blue and our gray together just to darken it up just a touch. But I still want that blue tone to show through. And of course I'm leaving areas white for the white color to come in. Alright, now for the bottom, once again we're going to start with our dark. Oh, that's the light. Oh, let's just put that anywhere. And we're going to do the darkest areas first, following that dark gray scale. Now, like I said, you'll have to come back through and sharpen that up. This basically all it does is it gives you the sight of where those dark grayscale areas are going to be. Because if you color over it with light, it will dull it down. You can of course go in with a much darker gray and just fill that in and then go over it with your light gray. The reason why I don't do that is I find that I have a tendency to choose a too dark of a color and have problems getting it toned down. So that's why I don't do that. Go in with too dark of a color and then go over it with your light, and you may find that your dark is way too prominent for the area that you've put it in, especially when you feather it out. So I'm just getting his butt. And as you can see, I'm not covering everything. I'm just covering those darkest of areas. Of where the snow is darkest on his area, his bottom area here, and down at the base of the snow. Just getting all that shadow in there. Just going to sharpen his edge here, just so we can see where it is a little bit better. And then we're going to take our light gray, which is gray number 2. cool gray number 2. And we're going to fill in the lighter gray areas. Like I said, you could do this with white and just go over top of the grayscale and it will work perfectly fine. It won't give you the depth that a grayscale normally gives you if you color it. It won't give you as much of the dimension. And basically all I'm doing at this point is covering up the lightest part of the grayscale and feathering out and blending that darker gray in. I'm going to go back through and I'm going to darken up a little bit of this grayscale here at the top, just because that's going to be quite a bit darker from the shadow of this one and this one. Now if you're coloring, and I will show you on one of these trees that's fairly close up, if you're coloring on a tree, you'll be using a very, very light green and some blue. I'm just going to go into some of that blue area there, leaving some areas white, but making sure I get all of the areas that are showing as gray. Even if it's showing as a lighter gray, it still needs some color. You know, and gray is a color. It's a mixture of two different non-colors. Alright, we're almost done with gray. No, I see people do grayscales very, very quickly. I am not one of those people. I'm way too particular on where things are going, and I have a tendency to examine things a lot so that I can see what they are, because I have troubles sometimes just seeing what things are. So if I'm taking a long time with this, I do apologize. I know it's just a snowman, but it's just a snowman, and snowmen are magical, and they need to have their magic. And if we're not going to give them their magic, then we might as well just color them all white and call it a day. Right? So I'm just giving this boy his magic. Now we're going to take our white. Oy, oy. And I'm going to sharpen it up. So there's some snow here on his arm. So I will show you what I meant about the snow when it's on a branch. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to actually take a warm gray and do the snow on the arm, because a warm gray has a bit of a brown in it, where a cold gray has a bit of a blue in it. Now what we're going to do is we're just going to go over top of everything with our white. What this is going to do is it's going to blend it all together, tone down those gray areas and blue areas, and blend them all into the snow. Make them all into one thing so that you get the reflection and the smooth of the snow. Now, of course, I'm not going over his eyes or his nose or his mouth because those are all different colors. But I am going over every bit of the snow, and I am using it medium hand because I'm not going to put any further color on the snow area. Now I'm going to move that down for you so you can actually see what I'm doing. Just watch out for the objects in the picture when you go around things. Make sure that you're not touching into things that aren't the color that you're coloring. The reason for this is, for example, with white, if you color something white and then color over top of it, that white is going to shine through. And it's going to shine through really bright depending upon the color that you're trying to use. If you're trying to use like a gray or that sort of thing, it's not going to shine through as bright. But if you're using a red or something, you're going to get a pink streak right through your picture. Right through any area that you have accidentally touched with white. Now I'm not going over the white. Well, I guess I can. I'm using white. And I'll go back over those snow spots where the snow is coming down with a gel pen later when the picture is finished. Make sure you don't do your gel pen work and that sort of thing until after your picture is finished. Otherwise, you're going to end up rubbing your hand through it. So as you can see, there's all sorts of movement, all sorts of different views in the snow. So, like for example, this area here, it looks like there's a bit of a design in it, and that's just the way that the snow is laying. It may be something that the artist decided to put in there as a, hey, look at me. You can, of course, eliminate that if you don't like it. I like it. I like the little different Easter eggs you can find in pictures sometimes. Basically, all I'm doing is I'm just blending in and toning down and giving the white areas, the areas that I have left completely white, that color. So when I do go over it, say with some sort of medium for the background or something, it will show as white, not the color of the medium. It just gives you that buffer. Plus it helps blend and turn areas a little bit lighter than they were in the first place. Personally, I like the white pencil in all my sets because I use it a lot to do this sort of thing. Now, of course, you can do this with a blender pencil. However, you're not going to get the white tone on your picture that you would get with the white pencil. The blender pencil is usually a non-color blender pencil, so it's usually just the binder part of a pencil. So if you're using a Caran d'Ache blender pencil, it's the binder areas of the Caran d'Ache pencil. If you're using a Faber-Castell blender, which I have never seen one. I have heard of them, but I have not ever seen one. Or a Derwent blender. It's all the different types of pencils. So if you're using a Staedtler blender, it's the center area of that type of pencil, the binder area. And of course you can build white up. So as you can see down here, if I go over this, back and forth over top of this, it's going to come up a whiter white than just a gray. So for the highlight areas, I'm just going to go in with my white, and I'm just going to put a little bit of a heavier hand, leaving that edge color so it looks like there's a bit of a blue ice edge there that the light of the day is going through. I'm going to sharpen up my pencil again, so I'm going to do the same thing for this ball and this ball. I didn't realize my nails were stained. That's what happens when you do stuff, though. Alright, so we're going to go under here, and we're going to make sure that we leave some of that blue edge. And we're just going to give it some white edge too. Like that. Same with up here. And back here. Blend that area in. Making sure to get those white areas fairly white. Like so. And there we have our snow from our snowman done. Now we're going to do the snow on this arm here. And we're going to do that with a bit of warm gray. This is warm gray number 3. And we're not going to use a lot of this. You may think, oh, warm gray, that's a bit brown, isn't it? And it is. But he's got a stick for an arm. But we're not going to use a lot. We're going to go down to where the stick connects to the snow, where the snow is actually sitting on the stick. And we're going to put a line of it down here. Enough of it that you can see it, but not enough of it for it to overtake the white. Because then we're going to go over it with the white. And drag it out a bit. Now once the background itself is done, this area here with all the different areas, it'll make it a lot easier to see. Just going to take a little bit of that darker gray. I'm using cool gray number 3 right now, just to reestablish that snow. Because going over it with the white without doing the other area there basically eliminated part of it. So I'm just going to reestablish the outline of it. The white itself that I've laid down, as you can see, is keeping that gray from actually covering it, so you can actually see where it's at. I'm just using this gray just to give a bit of an edge so you can see where it is. I'm keeping the white area white and just giving a bit of an edge for where that snow is. On the branch. When you do the center of the branch and that sort of thing, you'll be able to make it show a lot more. And that's basically how I do snow on a branch. Of course, your branch, let's do the branch. Your branch is going to be a mixture of different colors of brown. So let's start with nougat, which is a fairly dark brown. What did I do with my, there it is. I don't know where I put my sharpener. Now, because this is the shadow side, it's going to have less light colors than this side that's in the daylight. So since this is the shadow, we're going to go underneath, and in all of those dark areas we're going to use this nougat brown. Now you got to remember that there's snow on top of this. So this all is snow. So basically we're just putting the dark brown down under the area that's got snow. Like that. And then we're going to take a little bit of a lighter brown, and I'm going to use Bister. And I'm not going to use a lot of this because I want that white to stay white. But there is an area where the snow is just starting to touch the branch, where there's a bit of a gray area of where it turns from the edge of the snow to the tree branch. And the warm gray that I used then comes after this edge. So typically what I normally would have done is I normally would have colored the tree branch first, then colored the snow on top of it, just to keep that movement in the right direction. So I've got the warm gray 3, and I'm just touching into those browns, just spreading that brown in a little bit into the snow areas. Dulling down the dark brown a little bit, like that. And then of course once again we'll take our white. Now remember, we've still got our edge from the gray, the cool gray. We're going to leave that edge there. Make sure that you leave your outer line so that you can see that edge against the other snowy background areas. Otherwise, it blends right in. And there we have it. There's his arm. So that is the start of how to do snow. So the way to do snow on something that is in the light. So if this was at dark during the dark hours and the moon was out, these areas here, any areas that were facing that moonlight, would receive some sort of glow. Um, if you look at snow in the moonlight, it all glows. No matter whether there's a shadow or not, it's still going to glow. So make sure that you use your lightest grays if you're doing a moonlit kind of picture. Use your blues and your lightest grays if you're going to be doing a moonlight, because it's going to be a lot of white and the edges are going to have. Basically what you're doing is you're just putting in a little bit of dimension to the edges of the snow. Like for example, let's do a really quick little bit down here. So this area here, because it is a rut in the snow from the sledders, I'm doing it with a warm gray because there's dirt under there. Same as in the little footsteps there. Where it's darkest on the grayscale, use the darkest color. Now if you're doing this on a line art and you have a rut in the snow due to sleds or whatnot, use your warm gray to fill that in. As you get closer to the top of the rut, you can lighten that up if you wish, but once you go over it with the white, you're not going to have to worry about lightening it up anyway. See, this area here is going to be darker from the footsteps in the snow because they're deeper. So it's just showing the dimension of the depth of the sled treads as well as the footstep in the snow, if that makes sense. Oh, and of course I'm not on camera. How nice of me. Sorry guys. So this area here is a tread. This area here is a tread. But as you can see, it gets lighter and lighter and lighter at the further down you go. This area here is a tread. The deeper the tread, the darker the gray, because that's getting close to the ground, whether it be grass underneath or what. When it's full of water like that or liquid like that, it's going to show as a brown on the snow or a gray. Same with your treads and that sort of thing. So there's our steps. Now we can put a little tiny bit of blue around it if you like for the crystallization, because when you compress, you know it becomes a more icy surface. So you can put a little bit of blue around there for to reflect that icy surface. You know, if you want to, you can put a bit of blue on the edge of the tracks as well, just to show the depth in the snow there. because this snow is still sticking up. This snow is still higher than the other snow. Like that. Now, as you can see, there's a bright area right through here because this is where your light source is. So all of this area here, as you can see, is brighter all the way down the snow. Down in this area here, you have a lot more gray up until you reach your children. Now, as you can see, the shadow area there is of the kids in this direction. So all of this area here and up is going to be a lot brighter than here down. So we're going to use, because he's up on a hill, it's showing his reflection, and this hillside here very bright. Let's move you here so you can see a little better what I'm talking about. So because this hill is higher than this part of the hill that they're sledding down, this part of the hill here is going to have a darker color. So we're going to use more of a medium gray through here and more of a light gray through here. And then when we go over it with the white, we'll go over this area here heavier than, and through here heavier than through this area right here. I'm going backwards because I'm watching on the screen, not on my paper, because I just want to make sure that you guys can see what I'm talking about. So this small area here is going to be much darker. I'm going to use a fairly medium cold gray here, and then up in here I'll use a light cold gray, and then I'll go over it with the white. I'll leave the white areas as white as possible. A little bit of blue in some of the areas the further away it goes, and we should be able to get a really, really vibrant snow scene. Alright guys, that is it for today. I'm going to switch you over to the main camera so you can see what we've done here, and hopefully it will look okay because it is just the start. And of course, with every picture, the just the start is kind of bland and boring. So we have finished the snowman's snow. We have not done his anything else except for one arm. So we have done his snow. I will continue with the embellishments and that sort of thing, and continue with that. I will come back on a part 2 for snow, just to cover the coloring of houses and things like that, because well, actually, we're going to be doing a lot of snow this month, so I will continue this one. More than likely, we'll do something like this where it's right up close so that you can see the edges of the snow the on the housetops and stuff like that, and we'll work from that. But for a blanket of snow, your best bet is a light blue. So anything that is raised, give it a little bit of the blue. Everything that's indented, use a gray. So for example, I'm going to switch you over to the close-up just for a minute here so that we can look at an example. So for an example, this area here is quite well trotted. So there's lots of areas that are indented. So with the areas that are indented around the edge of the indentation, I'm going to put a little bit of this light blue. For the centers of the indentation, I'm going to take my, make sure that it's the cold gray, my cold gray 3. And I'm just going to fill in those darker areas. So if you have footsteps in the snow and it's on a line art, in the deepest part of the step, put your darker gray. If you have an area where it looks like they've stepped down and didn't put a full weight, or a whole bunch of people stepped, use your darker grays. If you have movement in the snow and you can see the edge, like if you have a footstep and you can see the outline of the footstep, like this right here, like this one here, if you can see that outer edge of the footstep, where the outer edge is, so for example this area right here, where it's coming up into that white snow, use a little bit of that blue just to show the crystallization of that edge. Same with down here. You're just going to use little bits of blue in your snow just to give it some dimension. Make sure you use blues, grays, and white basically in your snow. If you have a lot of lights, for example, if you're coloring a tree with Christmas lights on it that has had snow on it, of course remember to put that light reflection in the snow. So if you have a red light, from where the light and the snow meet, gradually add red. So put some red in the start, fairly heavy, going up from your light bulb into the snow, and then as you get to the top of the snow, make sure that you're in a white color. Because of course the snow is going to be white even if it's got, depending upon how thick it is, of course. If it's just a really thin layer of snow on the light bulb, the entire thing may be glowing. But if it's a thick layer, which most of these pictures have a thick layer on top of the light bulbs, because the snow is outside and there's, it's Christmas and there should be lots of snow. Um, I say that, and I dread the day that it's going to start snowing. We don't get a lot of snow out here, so. But anyway, I digress. So basically what you're going to do is you're going to make sure that the edges of a light bulb, where it reaches the light bulb, the edges of the snow, is going to reflect the color of the light bulb. As you get to the top of the snow, it's going to be more of a snow color, so more white. So don't color the entire thing in red. If it's a red bulb, just color the edge where the snow is touching the bulb. So as you can see, that just adding that bit of gray and blue has given these footsteps a bit more dimension. And of course, once we go over it with white, it'll give it a lot more dimension. So basically what I'm doing here, because of the fact that they are footsteps in the snow, is I'm going over into some of the lighter gray areas with some of the blue in my grayscale. Like so. There's so many different ways to color well, not even different ways, different objects that create different perspectives, and learning how to use that view, the vision, the not even the vision, the view, the perspective of that object from the artist perspective to the colorist perspective can be very difficult. But you just got to remember snow is white. uh, Shadows are gray, snow is white. With that, you can definitely do most pictures. I like to add a little bit of blue just to give that crystallization icy look. But you don't have to. Just varying shades of gray with your white will definitely work as well. Like so. Now, I don't know what I did. Oh, it's right in front of my face. So now I just go in with the white and blend it in. And of course I'm in your way, so you can't see what I'm doing. And just go in with the white. I just chose the area that had the biggest amount of blue so that I could show you how it blends in. The biggest shadow area, so you can see the white the best in that area. So just like that, and just blend it in. You know, if you find that an area has too much blue, use a little bit more white. Press a little harder on your white. Just like that. And if you continue the same process throughout all of your snow area, and I know that some snow areas, like this snow area here, is huge. The things that are going to be up close, such as this area here, pay more detail, more attention to. As you get further back here, you can just do a couple of little gray lines and a couple of little gray spots in the steps and in the runs, and then do the rest of it all in white. You know, down here where the hill comes down before it reaches this hill, do some gray in this area. You know, so that you're giving the depth and the perspective of this is where the person is standing that is taking this picture, that has drawn this picture. Because this is the closest point, this is the focus. So make sure that your focus is exactly the way you want it. The background can have that blur line so that you can blur those lines together a little bit in the background and not make it too precise. Concentrate on what's up front first and then work on your background. Don't get lost in the details in your background, because that could cause you some issues as well. So I'm going to do one area with that blue gray that I was talking about, if I can find it. Which one is it? Is this one? No, that's too dark. I have to remember which one it is. Of course, I haven't brought my chart out, so you know that would probably help if I actually brought my chart out. Okay, so I can't remember which one it is. I think it might not be in the Faber-Castells. I think it might be in the Prismacolor. But there are different blue grays that you can use with more of a blue tone to it, than the cold gray. for this one. So a blue-gray, let's see, I think this one has a blue-gray. Nope, that's a French gray. Basically anything with a blue-gray will work. What's this one? Nope, none of my sets that are close by have a blue-gray in it. What about this one? Nope, definitely not that one. Yeah, none of my sets that are close by have a blue-gray. But a blue-gray has an undertone of blue, so you don't get that bright blue color. So if you wanted to do, say, the steps and the snow areas, the open snow areas, with a blue-gray instead of a light blue, you could definitely do that. And I'm quite sure that Faber-Castell has a blue-gray in it. I just don't have my swatch chart out because I was intending on using 3 colors. You know, I intended on doing snow, not showing everything to do with snow. So there we have it. There is the footsteps in the snow. It's not completed, of course, and I will continue to work on it. We will be doing, of course, on Wednesday, we will be doing our work in progress Wednesday, and we will be maybe working on this one and maybe learning a little bit more about snow. Maybe finding our blue-gray. I don't know. I will be putting out another video shortly, not only doing the flip through. Well, I got a couple of videos to do, I guess. Not only doing the flip through of the hug book that we just finished. I actually finished an entire book. I'm so thrilled with myself. But also sorting out the Star Joys, putting them in color order, and of course doing my final review of them. I know I did some final review on Saturday while I was coloring with them because I had used them all week. Finishing up that picture and that sort of thing has given me a couple other thoughts, as well as I really do need to put them in color order because they drive me crazy. All right, guys, with that, I hope this has taught you something. If it has not, I'm sorry. If it has, great. But that is how I do snow. All right, guys, thank you all very much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day and a fantastic week. Always remember to like, comment, and subscribe. That is definitely the best way possible to support the channel. And definitely never forget to relax, color, and stay safe. Thank you all so much for watching. I will see you again very soon. Bye-bye for now.